as a survivor, but not only as a survivor. How has that changed your life, your entire perspective of the world?
The domestic violence situation, coming that and other circumstances that were very hard, like in my childhood and also in my early adulthood, all very traumatic experiences that I've had in my life. I think what they've taught me is the gift of understanding that God has been with me, how not to treat others, and really valuing the voice of my intuition. And I think the fourth thing that I can add to that is just a sense of gratitude. Being very grateful for where I am today, being very grateful for my life. The fifth thing I can add to that is understanding that because I've lived through so much, my life has to have meaning. There is something I'm meant to do on this earth, and this is why I'm alive today.
How will you able to not fall into the thought that God is failing me, God has abandoned me?
God is faithful, and He's always been faithful, always will be faithful. I remember vividly, right? So here I am in the closet praying to God, please get me out, please, 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 please. And then in the next moment, I'm sitting on the couch and feeding my son. My abuser gets up to walk out of the house. He doesn't say anything to me. I'm watching TV because it was so timed. The minute he walked out the door, the programming went off and this person comes on the screen. You sitting on the couch, you've been praying to God to get you out. He's going to get you out. When you get out, stay out. And I held on to it, right? The minute he says that, my abuser comes in, the programming comes on like nothing happened. Okay? In very random situations, some people through songs, some people through like the lady through the radio. For me, it was the TV. Others, it was like a concerned citizen who would be like, hey, you need to get out and stay out. I'm like, oh my gosh, we had a moment like, that was God, oh wow. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was real, right? And so little moments like that and then getting them validated really just made me feel, oh, God does exist. And He's really been taking care of me. God gives us the parents that we need. Even if we feel like, this is my belief, even if we feel like, oh, they failed me, they didn't give me this, or they're this, they're that, they are exactly what we need. And this is not this is not an original thought process. This is something that Oprah says all the time. And I've just felt like it's resonated in my life. And so I remember, I think this was after my son was born and he was still a baby. And I remember asking God, saying, my childhood was really rough. It was tumultuous. And I said, the best way I can describe it is being in a war zone and just ducking missiles and ducking bullets. That's what it felt like. It was chaotic. It was so many children from so many different parents, step siblings, half siblings, biological siblings, a stepmother, a dad, and my father was a stepfather to some kids. My stepmother was my stepmother, so we weren't her children. So we had so many people coming in and going out of our home. I mean, we had a big, beautiful home. We lived in a big, beautiful neighborhood. My father had a big, beautiful job. So on the outside, we looked beautiful. But on the inside, what was going on behind closed doors in our home was just, for me, it was very traumatic. It was very, very traumatic. And so I was telling God, I said, God, the molestations that took place when I was growing up, the senseless yelling, the senseless fighting, and all the different things that went on. I said, how come you allowed that to happen? And where were you? Was my question. God, where were you when those things were happening? And this is me in prayer, kneeling down in my room and asking, verbally talking to God, where were you? Those were very painful times, and for some reason, I can't shake off those times. Where were you? I just want to know where you were. And then I came back to my senses after I asked God that, because I'm like, wait a minute. I know whenever David would talk to God, he would say, God, I'm sorry. I lost my senses. And I said, God, I'm sorry. You don't owe me any answers because you're God all by yourself. The very fact that I'm still alive, I should just praise you. And so I said, thank you for my life. You don't owe me an answer. And I left it at that. And I went about my day. And I think it was like the next day, I received this Facebook Messenger message. And it was from a friend. His name is Robert. So he's like, hi, hey, he says, I just want to tell you something. It's on my heart to tell you this. And he said, do you remember when we were growing up? He was a neighbor of mine. He lived 4 doors down from me. We were born on the same day in the same year. So it's a very special connection there. And so he said, I remember us being young in our teenage years, being in high school. And I remember how you always seemed to be preoccupied. You were never fully happy. You were never fully present in life. And I often wondered what was going on. And you never really opened up. And he said, when we were far away from your home, and if I met you somewhere far away from home, you would be so happy. Your eyes would light up. You'd have a little bit of a conversation. But the closer we would walk and get to your home, you'd get quiet, eerily quiet. And he said, I wondered. And I didn't even realize that this was happening, right? Because I'm like, oh, I did that? I don't remember that. And he said, and so he was trying to investigate, why is she like this? And he said the closest I got was to the fact that I had a stepmother. Robert had a stepmother. And he said, my stepmother was not a very nice woman. And you had a stepmom. And I thought, I wonder if her stepmom's a nice person. And so Robert began to pray for me. He was only 16 at the time, and he would pray for me. Every day, he said, I would pray for you. I would get on my knees and pray, God, I don't know this girl. Please help her. I don't know how she lives in that house. Please help her. Please help her. Please help her. And so when I read the email, I'm like, God, you were there through Robert. You were there for me through Robert. I survived because you had a 16-year-old praying for me with his pure heart. Lord, please help this. Wait, please help this girl. Please help this girl. Please help this girl. So I don't have an option but to say, wow, through the toughest moments in life, God's been
You. What are your thoughts of them? Like, how do you see them in your life?
2 things helped me, because obviously I've struggled for a very long time with my relationship with him. But 2 things helped me. First was God. One time I'm crying about my father. I'm like, Lord, it hurts. Why? Again, Lord, why was my father so mean? Why was he so there but disconnected and absent? And he didn't care for us like he cared for his stepchildren. And him choosing to practice spiritual acts that are not godly against us. Why would he do that, right? And I felt like God responded to me and said, how do you expect a person to treat you in a loving, kind way if they've never known love, kindness, compassion? If the way they are is all that they've known, how can you expect them to be different? And then in that moment, I started to cry for my father to say, God, please send him love. Please send him comfort. Please send him what he needs to feel that you're there. The way I know your love, I want him to know your love like that, right? So it's a prayer that has continued for me over the years. But God has healed my heart. And then the second way he healed my heart was through a book called The 4 Agreements. And when I read something that resonated with me to say, when people treat you a certain way, it's not about you, it's about them. So if someone gives you a compliment, it's not about you, it's about them. When someone is mean to you, it's not about you, it's about them. And if somebody's practicing witchcraft, the only way the witchcraft will carry power in your life is if you believe it. If you receive it and believe it, hold it in your heart, you're going to manifest that. But if somebody's sending you witchcraft and you say, no, it's not going to work, and you refuse it, it's only going to go back to them. And I was like, oh my God. So I've taken those words and I've allowed them to really grow in my heart. And so I don't take my father's actions towards me anymore personally. Then I have nothing to do with how he chooses to respond to me. I have nothing to do with how he chooses to act towards me. Nothing. It's all on him. He's the one choosing to be that. He's the one choosing to be mean-spirited, right? He's choosing that. I have nothing to do with it. So I have liberated my soul in that sense. And but again, it comes back to me to say, how can a person treat you with love if they don't know love? If they weren't raised in love, how can they give you love? And so I pray for him on a constant basis. Send him love, Lord. Let him know the love of the Father, the Heavenly Father. Let him know that kind of love, the love that makes you smile on the inside, yeah? The kind that makes you say, oh man, I'm loved. Oh, that's what I've done, is put a distance between myself and the people that harmed me, to say I am not them, and their actions are their responsibility, not mine. Something else that I do, though, understanding that it's not a very healthy connection, I choose to put up a barrier to this day, right? In terms of keeping myself safe, like, don't pick up the call, let it go to voicemail. I'm in control. I take back control in how I choose to interact. It's no longer it's no longer reactive. I'm choosing to respond in my power. So that's how I deal with that one.
You kept John protected while all of this was happening, even when he was in your belly. How did you manage to not only embrace that power for yourself, like for self-protect, but for John, that he was, once that he was born, he was already a separate being from you?
I was in it, when I was in the situation, I didn't realize that I was being very instinctive, right? My instincts kicked in, and I didn't realize that I was actually being led by my instincts. And for me, when I say instincts, I know that it's the unction of the Holy Spirit. It's God in me speaking to me, right? So I'm listening to my instincts, and it was like instinctively I knew, and then backed up by science. Make sure you read to him while he's in the belly. So I'd read to him. Make sure he listens to music. So I'd put Beethoven, the computer next to me, so you can hear Beethoven, right? And Mozart, and soothing Christian music, things like that, right? And so I did those things instinctively. So yes, I'll have moments, because it's abusive, where I'm like at 100%, because I'm so upset, 100% upset, I'm shaking. And then when I would calm down, I had really good friends who would take me and pray over me and lay hands on my belly and pray over John, talk to me and calm me. And then there was a lady who just felt it was her duty to rub my belly and talk to John, speak life into him, speak prophetic words over him. And he would leap every time she was around. Poo, 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 poo. So they had this connection. She's not even in my life anymore, because that was just her job, was just to, she just said, I just need to be in your life to make sure that this child is birthed. And so I was very fortunate that she would spend so much time praying for me. She's like, there's just so much going on in your life, both with what we can see with our physical eyes, but also in the unseen realm. And so she took it upon herself to pray for me day and night as much as she could. And then we would meet periodically, and then she would, she was very soothing for me. So I allowed myself to be with soothing people, even though I was in a very tumultuous domestic violence situation. I had soothing people around me, and I knew to let him listen to music while he was in my belly. I knew to read to him, and even for myself to pray to him, to lay my hands on my belly and pray. And so when he was born, same thing. I had a lactation specialist. She was, I don't even know her name. She was awesome. She was running her own business, and she helped mothers who couldn't afford lactation specialists. So it was all free of charge. And so she would stay with me on the phone for hours in the morning after my abuser would go to work, just talking to me. And I would say things like, my son is still breastfeeding, and it's been 2 hours. And she's like, leave him. Let him feed. And so I'm like, is he eating at this point? She's like, no, he's not. He's playing with your nipple. He's using your nipple like a pacifier. And I'm like, should I just put him to bed? She's like, no, don't. As long as he wants to have your nipple in his mouth, whether he's feeding or just using it as a pacifier, hold him. This is how children learn to trust the world, is when you hold them close to you. And so, and even instinctively, I knew that was right. And so I would hold him a lot. I would literally put him right here. Sometimes I would, take my shirt and put him inside, naked. He would be naked with just a diaper, and I'll put him inside of me. I didn't realize that those things are called vitamin D for babies. A baby needs that. A baby needs human contact, because that's vitamin. It's like vitamin D for a baby, not its vitamin. It's like vitamin D for a baby. It's what could cause a child to trust the world, or make the world feel like it's unsafe. So I didn't realize that what I was doing instinctively, following this woman, was actually really good for my baby. So I held him a lot. Sometimes I'd hold him the whole day because that's what he wanted, just to be held.
So John is now 7 years old. He acknowledges that he has African roots, but he was born in the United States. How do you manage to keep on building a safe space for him, a safe world for him to get involved and to be the best version of himself?
So I think one thing we do is we have like what some people will call mantras, some people will call positive affirmations. So we have those. We have positive affirmations that he says periodically, because the more you say something positive about yourself, you're going to believe it. Or if you say something negative about yourself, you're going to believe it. So we have positive affirmations that we recite. We have prayer that we say every night. We have a very open policy in our home where he's able to ask any question, right? And then I also make sure that I can provide the best answer for him. Also, what I do is I allow him to be himself. Whoever he is, I allow him to be that. And most of the time, even when you ask me, how's John doing? Usually my answer is he's doing great. He's wonderful. That's always my standard response, because if I say it, it's going to happen, because I know that he's listening. The next phase is to read more affirming books before we get into the deeper conversations on racism, on what Blackness is. What I want to do with him is make sure that his identity as a human is solid before we can go into Blackness, before we can go into racism. Blackness is who he is, yes, but I'm looking at deeper core values, right? And those things translate beyond skin color, right? So we're still in the building phase of that before we get to the hard topics.
You say, are those core principles or values that you not only practice to yourself but try to inherit to John?
We're two separate individuals. I've noticed that he's not me and I'm not him. So I think what speaks to him is different from what speaks to me. So like for him, it's I am strong, I am mighty, I am smart, I am funny, I am loved, and I am worthy. So we have those 6 things, and he says them over and over again. We've also added a prayer that he's learning now to say, "Oh Lord, bless me, enlarge my territory, go with me, remove all evil and all pain, and God answers my prayer. Amen." So he's just learning that one, the prayer of Jabez. For me, what works for me is excellence. I like excellence. Academic excellence is what I do. So then when I'm academically excellent, I tell him, "Hey, look, what is that, mommy?" I'll say, "I made the dean's list." "What's that?" "It means I got good grades and I'm being recognized for it." And he'll say, "Wow, you're really smart." "Yeah, I am smart." And I'll walk away, right? Because that's my core value. I like excellence. That's one of my values, is excellence, to be excellent, especially academic excellence.
You have said that you're loyal at your heart, not only now, but before. What would you say you were loyal to?
At the time when I was little, I would say I was loyal to myself. I had loyalty for myself, yes. I can safely say that. I was loyal to myself. And I feel like in the environment I was in, I needed to be loyal to myself. I needed to have my own back to survive.
And right now, what are you loyal to?
I'm still loyal to myself. I'm loyal to my son, but I'm also loyal to things like God, for obviously, and specific things about God, like righteousness, having the ability to speak hard truths, but with softness, with loving kindness, being able to have very uncomfortable conversations, but having them in loving kindness.
So far, what would you say, or what would you identify as your calling in this world?
I know for sure that social work is something I'm supposed to be doing. And I also know for sure that I'm called to encourage, to inspire, to influence, to speak truth, I guess to speak encouragement to other people, to help someone say, "Hey, have you thought about it this way?" Or reframe situations for people, right? Writing is in my future. Speaking engagements are in my future. Those are all things I want to do.
Right now, I'm just thinking and how different our backgrounds are, right? I'm a Latina, I'm Costa Rican, you're African from Zambia, your mom, I'm not a mom, etc., etc. We can find so many differences. What I would
Mhm.
say is that that connects you with a person beyond who they are.
It's two things. First of all, it's understanding myself, right? Understanding myself and understanding that I am called to encourage. I'm called to speak. That's one of the gifts I have, is to speak. Um, I think in the Bible it's called prophecy, right? But in the world we just call it speaking. And we can argue about that. Someone might be listening to this and say, "Well, I say those are two different things." Great, they are. Okay. What leads me into having meaningful interaction with people is my sense of curiosity. I'm always curious, always have been curious, and awe, a sense of wonder. If a flower looks extra yellow, I'm like, oh my gosh, that flower is amazing. I see beauty. I have a sense of awe. I see beauty in everything. And then my job is to figure out, how do we connect? Is this something, how do we then connect? So if they're equally as curious as I am, then yes, we'll cultivate something. But I always lead with curiosity, and I lead with authenticity. I lead with the awe, because I see beauty in everything, and I also understand that there's that gift of encouragement in me. That everyone could use a little bit of that, and that little bit of wisdom.
What about when you don't find that reciprocity in what you're giving? In this curiosity and this genuine, I want to know about you, and then all of a sudden you have a wall in between because that other person maybe is not seeing that curiosity or that genuine part of you moving towards him or her, but
Hmm.
seeing with his or her physical eyes, right? Oh no,
Yeah,
oh no, she doesn't look like me. Oh no, she doesn't talk like me. Oh no,
yeah.
who are you? Because I don't even know you.
I have a friend who has a son. When I met her kids the second time, when they fully met me, the younger one was, like a same thing like me. He's just curious, and he leaned in, I leaned in. It was great. John's age, they got on like a house on fire, him and John. The older one just stood aside and just, I could tell he had a wall. I'm like, hi. Nothing. Hi. That's all he said. Like, he wasn't letting me in. It's like, I wonder what that is. But then at the same time, people are different, right? Some people just need time to warm up to another human. Some people are just genuinely not interested for you to know them. They're okay. Their life will be fine if you don't get curious about them. When you see the wall, right? You see somebody's wall, and rightfully so. It goes. Oh, it could just be a personality type. It could be a protective barrier, whatever. Then what I do is I tread softly with that person, because I don't know what that is. So I tread softly. So I'm not gonna go all out like a puppy. I'm just gonna tread softly with the person, and I'm going to come in very slowly and very warm, right? Very warm and very slowly. I'm gonna have very slow conversations with them, and I'm gonna try to instinctively figure out, maybe do they like this, maybe do they like that, because I know that my intentions are pure. I'm not trying to manipulate. I'm not trying to dominate. I just, I'm like, I see the beauty. I'm like, oh, they're so beautiful. I really want to get to know them, and I want them to get to know me too. And then usually it always, I always win in the bet, because then the shell breaks open, and then all of a sudden you find that they're so beautiful. They have so much life, so many stories. You're like, I knew it. It was just a shell.
That's the thing, that you're not pushing. You're just like, if we will think about an egg, you're just putting in warmth on the egg, rubbing warmth until the egg breaks.
Yeah, because sometimes people want to know who you are. They'll say, you can feel the energy. Back up off me. I don't know who you are. You can feel the energy. Back up off me. And so you have to respect that. You back off. You're like, okay, I can't be a puppy with this person. So I'm going to back off, and I'm going to respect them. But then I'm also going to show them, hey, I'm just a sunflower. I'm really genuine. I'm very curious about you, especially if you're going to be working with a person like that, right? If they're going to be a coworker. Because sometimes I think that if you're going to be in the same space with someone, you have to genuinely try to form some form of a connection that is genuine, and it's friendly, it's positive, as much as possible. You're not always going to win, but it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt to try.
To finally break the shell. We have actually 6 months of knowing each other, and I don't think there's something. Of course, we have experiences and stories, maybe this and that we haven't shared with each other, but there's not a thing that I'm like, oh my God, no, maybe Serena will think about this about me. This is me, and you have known the real me, and I feel so comfortable and so empowered that you have known me like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for also doing the same with me, showing yourself as you are, out of your shell, because like that I have received so much light, love, wisdom, support, admiration for you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the platform that you're formulating for voices to be heard. I can appreciate that. Thank you for your vision and your passion. I know you're always eager to do your mind always captures ideas easily, and so it's good that you're putting this out to the world, and you're going to have awesome people on it. And thank you also for your friendship and for allowing me to know you for like you said, 6 months now, because I am just like, really? She wants to know me? She wants to be my friend? Okay. Does that make sense? I'm like, okay, we can be friends. So that's just the geek in me like that. So yeah, I can appreciate that as well. You're such a beautiful human being. Remember I told you the first time I saw you, I'm like, hey, this girl, just the illumination of light. And then I see Melvin. And then I see him, I'm like, wait, he has the same illumination. How is it that light and light found each other like this so perfectly? I'm like, they're luminous. And they're not luminous because they work out, they eat healthy. I'm like, the luminosity is coming from inside. It's illuminating outwardly. I'm like, wow, they're so beautiful. And you were just both just so gentle and just so calm in your spirit. I'm like, wow. And I thought it would end there. Just like, okay, wow. But then now we're friends. I'm like, wow, I get to be friends with a luminous person, and she comes with a luminous boyfriend. So I'm very blessed.
The whole package.
Yes, right. You should have t-shirts. I illuminate.